Welcome to Great Talking Entertainment. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the YouTube channel where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, everyone. My name is KJ. And today's spoiler review is the new series on Hulu called The Twisted Tales of Amanda Knox, Episode 4 spoiler review. If you have not seen this show, please pause this. And before you go, could you hit the thumbs up button? That would really help my YouTube channel out, and I truly appreciate that. Come back and let me know in the comments below of what you think about episode 4 of The Twisted Tales of Amanda Knox. So again, this is a spoiler review. Y'all been warned. Now, let's get into it. This episode starts off with Rudy as he crashed a preschool, and we see a teacher with her son walk in, sees the man, Rudy, and calls the cops. Now, this takes place October 27, 2007. 5 days before Meredith's death. Now, so this is 5 days before Meredith's death. So what they're doing is they're showing this guy named Rudy, who the only reason why I believe he would break into a preschool is because he might have attended to this preschool as a child. And I mean, yeah, he could have never ever, but you know, I feel like somebody like him or somebody in a situation like this would go to a familiar place who knows the ins and out of a school. You know, it's not hard to break in like that, especially in 2007. But the idea of it, I could imagine him once went there in his childhood life. So, but why did he crash there is again a familiar place. And we see like through this episode, he's very sloppy. He's very like not prepared. He doesn't thinking about things that could and could not happen. And out of just 4 episodes, right? From him to Amanda to Raphael and anybody else who's allegedly involved in this, they're not professionals. They're not trained. It wasn't planned. It's not like they do this every day. They're not assassins. They're not secret spies. So what's unique about this is they're just sloppy at their crime, covering up their tracks, you know, leaving fingerprints where you shouldn't leave fingerprints at. You know, it's just all they're just sloppy at it. And that's why it's easy for them to get caught. It's easy for the police, the detectives, anybody involved that's in the side of the law can find these evidence, create these stories, fill in the blanks where they can decide like this is the story, this is the statement, whatever. But, you know, they're just sloppy because he got woken up by a preschool teacher. And so, like, in my mind, I would think, like, you should know just common, like, teachers go to the school a lot earlier than the students do because they have to get the class ready in the sense of it, right? Not, like, come up with today's lessons, but most teachers like to get there before the students get there. And so, but, hey, you know, I grew up where teachers, you know, were not late, but like they just walked in the same time I walked into class, you know, just, you know, while we're all sitting down and then the teacher walks in, puts their stuff down and starts. But that's nothing unnew. That's not maybe late in the sense of it. But, you know, we're seeing this guy is just not very professional. Like, so, you know, this is just setting up the tone of like where this is really going with it. And what I think is going with Rudy is he just seems to be caught in a scenario where he became the problem. he became involved in the situation, like wrong place, wrong time. And sometimes when you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you literally become the main attraction of the crime. So that's where I think Rudy is at. And we'll go deeper more into that, because as we see now, Amanda's dad or father has arrived, and we see the argument, and there's a stepdad, or maybe the mom has a boyfriend or something, and they're all arguing about some stuff, and they're staying at this place, and it's pretty a typical reaction from the two parents, Amanda's parents, because one, the father wants to talk to the media because the media is making her Foxy Amanda, or Amanda Foxy, whatever the nickname is. But he's like, we gotta get on the media to paint a better picture, while Amanda's mom is like, no, we need to focusing on our daughter. We need to make sure she's safe. We got to get her right. And then, you know what I know? I don't know if it's a sister or a stepsister, but she says, Amanda, you got to remember who Amanda is. She's not understanding. She's not comprehending the situation, because we see this, it gets a little bit more crazier in this episode, which, again, you may not be able to trust the narrative to this, the narrator, which is Amanda, of this crime that allegedly happened. And so we see this, and it's an interesting point, because why does this, I can't remember, it was a blood related sister or a stepsister or maybe a childhood friend from America, right? So I think when she said that, it made me think, okay, this is a very interesting clue or a hint that maybe she's not, I wouldn't say mentally unstable. That's not the right word, but maybe she was born with something. Maybe she struggles with like a just there's so many categories you can put in, but they don't really say the words. They don't really make it clear. But maybe she's a child. Her childhood, she made it needed extra attention. Maybe just something happened, because we know that in the first episode, she made it clear that people just think Amanda is weird. And why do they think she's strange? They think she's an oddball. But why? Why is that? Why is she like that as a child? But hey, kids are kids at some point in their childhood life, right? So it's hard to decipher what they're going with this, but that was an interesting scene, and obviously that dialogue was okay to add in there. And as we go to that, the next scene is Amanda is informed about Rudy, and she could be free. And there's excitement, there's hope, maybe she's out, but what's really interesting, and I don't know if this was real or maybe she was just imagining it, but she was in a cell or in a side where, there's jail bars, but she was talking to children. And I don't ever see, I never heard of a prison that lets a female inmate interact with children while there's a bar, a jail cell bar. I don't know if that was just her being delusional, if that was all in her head, but I don't think that's a thing. I looked it up. Nothing came up on Google. I never seen any videos of it, but I could be wrong. Maybe I just didn't type in the right words or researched it correctly. But in my mind, I'm going to have to go, and if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. But I think that was all in her head. Because I think that she is going somewhere in her mind to a happy place. You know, if you ever heard of the phrase or somebody say, yeah, when I'm stressed out, I just go to my happy place. That's in your brain, in your mind, right? In your imagination. And maybe that was her happy place. And so why is kids? I mean, maybe she wants to be a mom. We know she has kids in real life. And in the first episode, they let her know that she does have a child with a man named Charles. And, you know, I can't trust a man named Charles. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Shout out to all the Charles. But I don't know. I think that I just believe that this was all in her imagination. I think that when she's trying to find some positivity in her life, she's trying to understand the situation, and her awareness is maybe not functional correctly. You know, maybe, you know, she daydreams a lot. You know, I don't know where that comes from. They haven't really explained that part yet, but I'm sure they will. I'm 100%, I'm sure they will. But that was an interesting thing. And so, again, they told her that, you know, she could be free. Now, here's the interesting thing. The next scene, which is November 19th, 2007 at 4:39 p.m. or 4:34 p.m. 18 days since Meredith's death, Rudy is explaining to his friends. So this is like the before. So it jumps back and forth, and I'm noticing this. But Rudy is explaining to his friends, and while the detectives and police listen, Rudy says he's in Germany. So just remember, he's on the run. He went from Italy to Germany. Like, dang. He got away quick, but this shows like this murder of Meredith that allegedly happened to Amanda Knox, that's been pinpointed to Amanda Knox, allegedly, that this guy, you know, just went from Italy to Germany. Now, I don't know the distance or how far of a drive that is, or from driving, boat, airplane, whatever, but he's there. He's in Germany. And he called his friends, and again, this is the part where the police / detectives tapped in to his friends. Well, not tapped in, but they listened in. They were actually at his house. So they found out who his friends and who Rudy associates with. And so they're listening. And again, Rudy's not thinking, oh, is the police listening? Because he said everything. He explained everything. And he said he was in Germany. And Rudy's explained that Amanda has nothing to do with it. Now, again, why did Amanda Knox fabricate her statement? And then why does Rudy say she had nothing to do with it? You know, was there a love connection? Did he catch feelings for her? You know, because we know that in this scene that he was kind of flirting with her, but she seemed very shy, very nervous, you know. And so there's that. But when he said that, you can tell everybody, all the detectives, the police officers, that they were upset. They're like, what the fuck, right? And then the detectives wants to figure out why is she protecting, again, why is she protecting and fabricating the story? And Patrick and his lawyers make it very clear that they blame everyone involved about this scene, that, and blaming Amanda Knox that she allegedly committed the crime. And now this is, here's what's interesting, what they're trying to show you in these both scenes. Okay, so we see Rudy just sloppy with his tracks. You know, this is not a professional hit, but we're seeing like this story is much deeper, but actually it's probably a much simpler answer. But since the simpler answer is so, at this point right now in this episode of this season, is so difficult to find out, because one, Amanda Knox fabricated the story, but we know that they're putting words in her mouth. They really like integrated her so much and stretched her out. Like, you know, they played good cop, bad cop. They were trying to get her tired, get her worn down mentally. You know, they wanted the answers. They wanted to figure out, like, how did this girl get murdered, you know, allegedly. And, you know, and then you have Meredith's family, her mom and her sister, you know, who lost a daughter. They lost a sister. You know, young woman in college, you know, trying to get her life straight to one day have a family, you know, and live life, right? Who knows? And so what they're doing is they're giving you so many ways you can look at this and view this. You can view it through Amanda Knox's view. You can look through the police, the law viewpoint of it, or you can look through Patrick or Meredith's family's viewpoint of this, of how this is looking at. And what I think is, it's up to you how you feel about it. And for me, I'm looking through all viewpoints. And what I'm thinking is this, that I think Amanda, Rudy, and everybody else, including Meredith, I think what happened is that it had to be the drug dealer. I know they're only smoking the marijuana, and maybe they wanted some heavier drugs. Who knows? And I know, well, marijuana's not a drug, blah, blah, blah. I know. Just hear me out first, people. I think that what I'm thinking is it's the drug dealer. I think they want to try some heavier stuff, whatever that may be. And I think the drug dealer that they were getting it from, if who they had just went south, maybe they were much sketchier. But again, these are not professional criminals. They're not professional killers. They're just living their regular life. But I think they had a drug dealer if they couldn't plant something. I know they said they had some marijuana plants. Not the girls, but the fellows or whatever. But I still think that sometimes if they couldn't get something to grow, they had a dealer, they had a person. And I think that person might have done it. I think that person was sketchy. I think that person was hanging out with sketchy friends, if they're drug dealers. But I could be wrong. That's what I'm thinking. Because if Rudy says that Amanda had nothing to do with it, but Meredith knew this is Meredith's kind of connection. Like, this is how she gets the supplies. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's the drug dealer. If you really think about it, that's what I'm thinking. That to this murder that allegedly has been pinpointed on Amanda Knox. But that's just me. That's just me. As it now, it's not looking very good for her. As the next scene, we get September 9th, 2007, 6:18 p.m., 54 days before Meredith's death. Rudy and the guys are having a little party. They're getting lit / drunk, getting high, whatever you want to call it. As they get introduced and meet Amanda and Meredith. And it seems all cool. And Rudy gets a light not a light sentence, but in that party, he explains in his mind that they just seem casual, they seem cool, you know. And he started flirting with Meredith there, you know. And, you know, I don't think Rudy's the one who murdered Meredith. Like I said, I think it could be the drug dealer if they have a person they can call. And they can all just give them some cash for some pot or marijuana or any type of other drugs, right? But he seems innocent, but he's not innocent to where he's free. But he's innocent enough where he got a light sentence. And he admitted, and I think he dropped some names. I think he may have gave away his content or one of his guys' contact that they call if they need some to refill, right? And that's what I'm seeing. That's why I feel like he got the light sentence. Now, why did I bring up the idea of him flirting with Amanda? I think he did genuinely like Amanda, like her. And I think that maybe he's not really smooth with the ladies. Like, maybe he's the type of guy that Meredith would friend zone, right? And maybe, because if you remember in, I think, episode 3, there was a comment that Amanda kind of made when she was talking to the detectives and police officer as they asked her so many questions. She kind of said, I forget the dialogue, but she mentioned that she feels like Meredith is much prettier than her, right? Now, let's connect that moment to this. He probably, Rudy, in his mind, and I'm not saying he's ugly, I'm not saying she's ugly, I'm not saying none of that, but in their mind, in their opinion, how I feel about each individual, he probably felt like Meredith friend zoned him. He has no shot with her, but he probably felt more confident about himself to shoot his shot at Amanda, right? And now, remember, we know that Amanda is dating Raphael at this time, right? Or just fooling around, whatever. Whoever side you want to viewpoint this. And so maybe he did he tried. I mean, it wasn't like he said something, he didn't put the Riz on her like you would see if you watch YouTube videos, TikTok videos, or any type of videos, but he didn't put the Riz on her like maybe you would do or I would do, right? But he tried. He was a little shy. She was shy, right? And he did his best. I mean, he might have been really high, so that helped his confidence of nerves. But I think that he had some feelings for her. But I don't think he is the type of guy that would just murder somebody. Allegedly. So that's what I'm thinking about. And that's how I feel in that. That's why I think he got that life sentence. But Amanda and Raphael, oh boy, they got the worst. They're getting lots of years. Right? And Amanda's lawyers tell her parents that inviting the press will help. And the goal is to try to make her look innocent on camera. And it's a strategy that has been done before in history. Like, this ain't new. I mean, celebrities have used it. Business owners, rich billionaires, millionaires. Because as we see on January 16th, 2009, at 5:02 a.m., day one of the trial, the media definitely showed up. They're ready to go. People, they're talking to each other. They're excited about this thing, and they're ready to create news articles, videos for the news outlets. I mean, everything you can imagine that the media and you got to think, this is in 2009, so like social medias weren't where they at right now in 2025. So like Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok wasn't around. Vine might have been around, and I think that was the end. And I think in 2009 was the end of MySpace, right? But I don't know. I forget. But so just imagine like this didn't go the way it went viral. It wasn't going viral the way things go viral now in today's social media and internet and news outlets now. Like, this is like the beginning of the change to social media and news outlets and media to post about reports. And this is also the end of what the old ways of news media outlets would report the news. If you think of, that's how crazy this event is. Like, this is a different 2009. So it's a little different, right? This is where like the Black Eyed Peas were getting ready to make songs like Boom Boom Pow. Not yet, but it was on the path to it. So just a little fun fact. So again, this is going to be a very challenging thing for her. Now, the court in Italy is quite different compared to court on an American trial. Like, this is going to be challenging and it's going to be stressful. As Amanda, it kind of explains too, she explains it like there's two judges and the jury or people are not like who have a higher influence. They don't go, seems like they don't go by your votes. Like, if you voted, then they go alphabetical order and just pick a random name to go to be the jury. This one's a little bit different. So it's a little different. And it's like Amanda and her lawyers against the police and the detectives. They're their own lawyers. They're the ones just, it's a little different. But still, you do not want to be found guilty. So there's the challenge, right? And as many against her, Amanda's lawyer told her to be herself. As Amanda says, that's probably the worst idea to tell her. And it makes sense, right? It because, again, I remember earlier I said that I think Amanda's like blood-related sister, stepsister, or just a childhood friend was like, yo, Amanda being Amanda, she's not comprehending. She's not realizing her awareness. She's not realizing the situation. You know, this is Amanda who we're talking about, right? Like, it's kind of like one of those things, right? So, you know, as the, you know, bad influence, bad ideas go through the scenes, Amanda's trying to look innocent in front of the media, and she's not really good at it. Or you can also look at it as she's acting. She's putting on a good show, and it doesn't look good at it. You know, she don't look good at this. So in many ways, example, Amanda and Raphael seem to be in love, and they miss each other, right? But if you look at it, maybe I don't know how to explain it. Maybe she's not understanding this thing, or she's really good at covering things up, because she's not admitting to the murder. That's the point. She has not admitted that she committed the murder, allegedly. And she hasn't broken down to that. She has not talked about it. She has yet even said it to herself or anything in this episode or in this season so far. But there's more episodes to come, so she might say it, she might spill the beans. But who would she actually admit that to? You know, is the question in this season of the Twisted Tales of Amanda Knox. So that's the question that is still mind-boggling. And until they get to that scene in that particular reveal, like, I can only think that right now, in this point, she is looking innocent. I feel like she was just in the wrong place, the wrong time. Because if you look how her and Raphael feel, now I know that she's not with him no more. She had a child with a different guy named Charles, or Charlie, whatever his name is. But right now, they seem to still be in love with each other. Right? And, you know, they talked about what they're going through, the stress they're dealing with. And it just seems very companion, seems so genuine in that. So each scene is flipping the coin of a different perspective viewpoint through the eyes of each of the same story, basically. And that leaves the audience, to me, including myself, that I just feel like, how can I trust any of these at this point? You know. Now, Amanda and Raphael, you know, they seem different. I think Raphael is at one point he's gonna turn on Amanda. I think he's going to, because here's the thing, because we go to the next scene where the trial is based on the evidence, and she's guilty on paper, and the witness stands against Amanda, you know, speak against her. And there's times where she has to clarify things at the end of the trial, and the media is left to report that. And it looks most likely is getting people to write about her and make her look innocent. But it's interesting that the scene that could change change the audience's viewpoint or mind, as far as the media is. But the fact is, the two Italian roommates have a different viewpoint. One is lifting her up, but the other one just seems to really hate her. And I know hate's a strong word, but she has that hatred towards her. And she says, well, I don't remember these good memories. You know, they're like, the one roommate was like, what about this? What about that? You hugged her. She made you laugh. We even talked about just considering living with her again as a roommate. But she's like, I don't remember that. I don't remember any of that. So then it takes us to February 14th, 2009 at 9:16 a.m. And she wears this shirt, right? And I forget what it says, but it's like a love, peace, and it has the hippie sign symbol. And now I got photographers and me calling her a psycho. But see, she's looking like a psycho too, because she's smiling. But I think what is happening is she's trying to look innocent, but she's just looking more crazier. You see what I'm saying? And her lawyers are having a hard time working with this. But they told her and her parents to invite the media and make Amanda look innocent in this. So they can have a different painted picture of her in the news when people turn on their television. And this is her way, but I think there's two ways. You can say she purposely is literally a psycho, or she just she's not understanding what innocent looks like. She tried her best, but nobody's like educating her. Nobody's prepping her up, And this is getting tough because with the roommate, which I'm gonna say or try to say her last name, Romanelli, I hope I said that right, portrayed her at the stand in court, and then it was bad. Like, she threw Amanda under the bus. In pro wrestling terms, she grabbed the shovel and buried her opponent. But I mean, my God, But Amanda claimed that it was never like that. She said it, and she spoke in Italian, and she said, and it was never like that. Because then it takes us to November 1st, 2007, the night of Merida's death. And it shows Rudy in the crime scene where the crime was committed at. And he was in the bathroom dropping a deuce, and he sees somebody come in, one of the roommates, and he left. That's why he didn't flush the toilet, which that's rude. And it didn't reveal anything, just him tossing the cell phones in that backyard, the two cell phones at the end of this episode. And so basically Amanda twice spoke and just tried to clarify things. She tried to sound sweet and sincere, and she's trying to tell everybody, like, I know that what her roommate said on Stan was nothing like that. They keep talking about this vibrator. It's a sex toy. And again, there's two ways you can look at that. You can say, because Amanda says she just did it as a joke, but this roommate saying like she is just leaving it out there, and it's making her and other roommates feel uncomfortable. So is Amanda fooling around too much? Is she a sex addicted or what? I don't really understand that. But some people say, well, that's what college people do. That's what the college life is about. Like, some just say, well, that's a horrible roommate. Especially, like, especially when you're trying to get your education at a college. And so I think what they're trying to show us is that, again, there's more to this. But this Rudy guy, why did he throw the cell phone away? Why was he there the day of Merida's death? And why did he dip out? Why did he break in? So there's something that he was looking for. Whether he got what he was looking for or he couldn't find what he was looking for. But he did touch the knife. He did walk in those rooms. He did jump out that window. right? And in court, the Amanda lawyers say, well, were these sturdy? Were they broken? Could these I don't know what you call those things. They're not like curtains. They're not like I don't know. They're not like shades. They're just something you can open or close like a window. But she said no. I mean, they weren't the greatest. They were a little old. They were a little rusty. They were a little broken because they're not the first people to live in this apartment building of some sort. So there's that. But even when Amanda tried to, speak upon what the testament that her roommate said, it does make her look like a psychopath. But now it's just an interesting way of this show. Why did they make Amanda look like that in this scene? And what I get out of it is I'm not saying she's like the Joker starring Joaquin Phoenix, but the idea of how that movie was portrayed with him, I think that's how they're trying to use that same format with Amanda. Not trying to make her the queen or princess of crime, nothing like that, but I think that maybe she could be mentally unstable. That's what they're trying to perceive with that. But in this case, still, it does not show Amanda actually committing the crime. So I think they're building up to it, to the person who committed the crime. But as far as right now, as I said earlier, I think this all connects to whoever has the connection to a drug dealer. That's what I'm thinking. But Amanda is just not good at it. I don't think her parents, too, are good at getting the right lawyers. I don't think they ever been in a situation like this, obviously. And they never had an experience of doing this. So how can they smarten up her own daughter? You would think, well, why couldn't they tell her? One thing they mentioned, like there's a scene where Amanda's mom was talking to Amanda, and she told her wear this cross, and she's like, well, I'm an atheist. Why would I wear that? But I get Amanda's point, because if the media can find out that she was an atheist, and somebody could say, no, she ain't really Christian, she don't believe in God, and she has that cross on her neck, the cross necklace around her neck in court, well, that's going to make her look even more suspicious. And so even the mom is not good. Again, the theme in this show, in this episode, is everybody involved besides the police, who are professionals at their job, but these are not professional killers, murderers. They're not professional parents who run a business, who's done some stuff that maybe, such and such might did in real life. These are not the type of parent. Amanda don't have those type of parents. And Meredith's parents are not the richest parents. They're not rich parents. They're just simple families, There's a lot. So everybody in their own ways besides the police, well, not the police too, but they have made mistakes, but these are common mistakes when you're trying to find evidence on a crime and put it all together. That's common. It don't matter what state, what country. I mean, evidence is evidence. And a detective's job is to debunk all these evidence to see if they're legit or not. So those are common mistakes. But as far as everybody else, they don't understand what's going on. And they're just not really good at covering things up if needed. I know Amanda in this episode, she's just trying to say, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. But she doesn't know how to play innocent because she's doing things that are just upsetting other people. So, again, I think at the end of the day, I think it has to do with the drug dealer of this whole season. But as far as this episode, I really liked it. I really liked this episode for three reasons. Number one, I like the twists and turns. You know, at least I like the idea there's one person, which is Rudy, who's the only one who says Amanda has nothing to do with it. And then also within that, the part of that first statement is I like there's at least one roommate that is seeing and explaining that, what are you guys talking about? We were all getting along with her. Yeah, Amanda's weird. She seems odd. But see, that matches up to what Amanda is narrating to us. So that tells us there is some truth to what Amanda Knox is saying. Right? So there's your first one. The plot twists, the twists and turns. That's what I like about this show. It's very exciting and it's very shocking and revealing. The second thing I like about this episode is I love everybody's performance in this episode. Like, it felt like a real court case. It made it come to life. Like, all the actors and actresses made you feel like you're really witnessing the day of the real Amanda Knox's trial at court, when it really did happen back in 2009. You know, everybody really put on a really good performance. You know, the main stars, the main characters of those actors and actresses, man, they made it believable. They made you to me, I was really tuned in a lot more because of the dialogue, and they were showing the emotions that fitted each scene. They showed the frustration of what a police and a detective would feel, you know, and the parents and the media. Look, it just felt all so real. Right? Like, it felt like this is the real video of the real Amanda Knox of this scene. Like, it was just, because sometimes, like, shows like this, when they do a court scene, and sometimes the dialogue's too dry. Not all shows or not all movies, but this one I felt like the dialogue was definitely not so dry at times. Definitely was not. And I really like, you know, the idea of, like, it's like it's much deeper than we thinking, right? So that's that. And the third thing I like about this is just, it always keeps you guessing, and it makes you wonder, should you be liking this particular character? It does make you feel bad for Amanda Knox, but then it also makes you realize I shouldn't feel bad for Amanda Knox. And, you know, that's a really good key point when you do a show like that. You know, there's a lot of shows in movies that have failed to do that, in my opinion, but I'm not going to name them, but yeah, they're out there. You know what they are. But other than that, this was a really good episode. If I had to give this episode 1 out of 10, I'm going to give it a 6. It was a really good episode. Really good. And the only thing I didn't like about this episode was I wish that they kind of answered some of the last questions that they had us guessing about. Like, there were so many of them. Well, the one easy one to bring up was Rudy. Or not Rudy, but Patrick. You know, yes, we know Patrick got out. Patrick made his statement. Patrick But I wish they showed a scene of like, was Patrick actually there? How was he connected? Did he even play basketball with the guys? And was Rudy a part of that? I wish they showed it in this episode, but they didn't. Maybe they show in the next episode. Who knows? But that's the only thing. That's my only complaint. Because they kept mentioning Patrick, obviously, because she name dropped him. And they arrested him for that. But yeah, I just wish they had a scene for that. But other than that, it was really good. Like I said, I'm giving it a 6 because it's only the 4th episode. I don't want to give it too much high of a number. But really good, and it makes it more intriguing. So that's my spoiler review, y'all. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace